Have you ever ordered food late at night and wondered who or what was really delivering it to your door? That's the question that haunted Daniel Miller every time he opened his delivery app after midnight. He never thought twice about it before, until the night he placed the order that changed his life. It was a freezing Friday night in Milwaukee, the kind where snow stuck to the window panes and silence blanketed the streets. Daniel had been working late in his apartment, his only company the blue glow of his laptop and the ticking of the old clock on the wall. Hungry, exhausted, and too lazy to cook, he reached for his phone. 12:13 a.m. The food delivery app flickered open. Most places were closed, but one restaurant caught his eye. Eternal Eats, open 24/7. Daniel frowned. He didn't remember seeing it before, but the menu looked normal enough. Burgers, fries, pizza, comfort food, cheap prices. And the delivery time? Just 15 minutes. His stomach growled louder than his hesitation. He ordered a double cheeseburger and a soda. Almost immediately, a notification appeared. Your order has been accepted by driver, Mary S. The profile picture was strange. Unlike the smiling headshots he usually saw, this one was blurry, almost like it was taken from a distance, or pulled from an old ID card. Still, Daniel shrugged it off. He went back to his work, though something about the silence outside gnawed at him. The streets were usually alive with late-night cars or the occasional drunk yelling from the corner bar. But tonight? Nothing. Then, 10 minutes later, his phone buzzed. Your driver is nearby. Daniel stood, peering through the window. At first, he saw nothing, just snowflakes drifting under the orange streetlights. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a dark sedan parked across the street. Its engine was off, but a figure sat inside, completely still. His phone buzzed again. Your driver has arrived. Please meet them outside. Daniel frowned. That was unusual. Drivers normally came right to the door. He typed back, Can you bring it up? Apartment 3B. No reply. Instead, his screen refreshed. Delivered. Enjoy your meal. Daniel froze. He hadn't gotten anything. Slowly, he cracked the door open and stepped into the hallway. The light above flickered weakly, humming like a dying insect. His footsteps echoed as he moved toward the stairwell, his breath fogging in the chill. The front door creaked when he opened it. Outside, the street was empty. No car, no driver, just his doorstep and a plain white bag. No branding, no receipt, just a greasy, crumpled paper bag sitting in the snow. A cold unease crawled up Daniel's spine. Still, his hunger overpowered his instincts. He picked it up and went inside. Back in the kitchen, he opened the bag. Inside was exactly what he ordered. A cheeseburger wrapped in thin foil, a soda can so cold it stung his hand. He stared at it for a long moment, debating. Then he unwrapped the burger. At first glance, it looked normal, but as he lifted it closer, a sickly metallic scent hit him, like rust or blood. He gagged and dropped it back onto the counter. His phone buzzed. New message from Mary S. Did you like your first delivery? Daniel's heart stopped. His fingers trembled as he typed, Who is this? What's going on? The reply came instantly. Don't worry, we'll be seeing a lot of each other. His screen flickered, then the app crashed. Daniel swallowed hard, forcing himself to breathe. His first instinct was to delete the app, maybe even call the police. But something inside whispered, Wait, just wait. The clock ticked loudly in the silence. Then, 3 sharp knocks rattled his apartment door. Daniel froze, every muscle locking in place. No one should have been there. No one ever knocked this late. The knocks came again, louder this time. And then, a woman's voice, calm, low, and almost cheerful. Daniel, your food is getting cold. Knock, knock, knock. The sound reverberated through Daniel's small apartment like a hammer against bone. Daniel! The voice was female, almost sing-song, but with a hollow undertone that made his skin crawl. Your food is getting cold." Daniel backed away from the door, his breath quick and shallow. He glanced at his phone, but the screen was still frozen on that last chilling message. "We'll be seeing a lot of each other." Whoever was outside already knew his name. The peephole on his door seemed to stare at him, daring him to look through. After a long hesitation, he pressed his eye against it. At first, he saw nothing. The hallway outside was dim, the old bulb buzzing faintly overhead. Then a figure leaned suddenly into view, so close that Daniel jumped back. It was a woman, pale skin, dark, stringy hair plastered against her cheeks from the snow. She wore a delivery jacket, but the logo was wrong. It wasn't the cheery red and yellow emblem from the app. This one looked, faded, like it belonged to a company that didn't exist anymore. She stood there, perfectly still, her lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And then she whispered again, "Open up, Daniel!" Something primal screamed in him. "Don't." He stumbled back toward the kitchen, grabbed his phone, and dialed 911. The line clicked, but instead of a dispatcher's voice, he heard static. Then faintly, a distorted echo of the same woman's voice. "Daniel, why'd you call for help? Don't you want to eat?" His stomach dropped. He threw the phone onto the counter as though it had burned him. The knock started again, louder, harder, shaking the door on its hinges. Daniel grabbed the nearest thing he could find, a kitchen knife. He gripped it tight, trying to steady his shaking hands. His mind screamed at him to run. But where? He was 3 floors up, snowstorm outside, no way to escape unnoticed. Then, abruptly, the knocking stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. Daniel crept toward the door again, heart pounding, knife raised. Slowly, he leaned toward the peephole. Empty. The hallway stretched on, silent, deserted. He almost laughed in relief until he heard the soft creak of a floorboard behind him. Spinning around, knife ready, he saw nothing but his small, cluttered living room. The shadows seemed deeper than before, stretching longer across the walls. The window rattled softly with the wind. Then his phone buzzed again. New notification. "Your next delivery is on the way." Daniel's chest tightened. He hadn't ordered anything. He tapped the screen, but the app wouldn't close. It showed a new order under his name. The items listed made his blood run cold. 1X cheeseburger, 1X soda, 1X Daniel Miller, apartment 3B. His throat went dry. The app wasn't delivering food anymore. It was delivering him. The old clock on the wall ticked louder, faster, like a heartbeat. Then came another sound, from the kitchen. A faint hiss. Daniel's eyes darted to the counter, where the burger he had abandoned still sat, half unwrapped. Except now the foil was twitching, wrinkling as though something inside was moving. He stepped closer, knife trembling in his hand. The soda can beside it rattled against the counter, vibrating as though from some unseen force. With a sudden pop, the burger wrapper split open. The meat inside was raw, glistening, and crawling with something black and slick like veins pulsing through it. Daniel gagged, stumbling backward. The knife clattered from his hand, and then 3 sharp knocks at the door again. This time followed by the sound of a key turning slowly in the lock. The sound of the lock turning sent pure ice through Daniel's veins. Click, click. He lunged at the door, slamming his body against it before it could open. His pulse hammered in his ears. "Go away!" he shouted, his voice cracking. "I'm calling the cops!" A pause. Then the woman's voice, muffled but unmistakable, drifted through the wood. "Daniel, I am the one you called." His breath caught in his throat. For a long, horrible moment, the handle twisted, rattled, then stilled. Silence. Daniel stood there, every muscle tight, listening for the slightest sound. Finally, after what felt like hours, he staggered back, chest heaving. He checked the peephole again. The hallway was empty, but his relief was short-lived. His phone buzzed on the counter, another notification. "Delivery completed. Enjoy your meal, Daniel." His knees nearly gave out. He hadn't opened the door. He hadn't taken anything. And yet, delivered? He forced himself toward the kitchen. The burger was gone. So was the soda. Only an oily stain remained on the counter. Daniel grabbed his coat. Enough was enough. He had to leave. He didn't care if it was midnight in a snowstorm. He needed to get out of this apartment before whatever game this was went any further. He shoved his phone into his pocket, slipped the knife into the other, and bolted for the stairwell. The building was deathly quiet, the hum of the overhead lights almost deafening. Each step creaked under his weight as he descended. He kept glancing over his shoulder, half expecting to see someone, or something, following. When he reached the lobby, he nearly sobbed with relief. The glass doors were just ahead, snow swirling outside. He pushed against them. Locked. His stomach dropped. They were never locked. Not in this building. Daniel slammed his fists against the glass. "Help! Somebody!" No answer. The streets outside were empty, buried in snow. Then, behind him, the lobby's overhead light flickered. Once, twice. And he wasn't alone anymore. In the reflection on the glass, he saw her. The woman from the peephole, standing at the far end of the hallway, perfectly still, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. Daniel whirled around. Nothing. The hallway was empty. His chest heaved. His brain screamed at him to move. He turned back to the glass, fumbling at the lock, trying anything to pry it open. Then his phone buzzed again. "Your driver is here. Please meet them outside." Daniel's hands shook as he pulled it out. The app showed his location as a blinking red dot. A little delivery car icon moved closer, closer, until it stopped directly outside the building. He looked up. Headlights pierced the swirling snow. A dark sedan idled at the curb. Its windows were tinted, impossible to see inside. The car door opened. Someone stepped out. Not the woman this time. A tall man in a delivery jacket carrying another plain white bag. His face was obscured by the shadow of his hood. He didn't walk toward the door. Instead, he just stood there, staring at Daniel through the glass, holding the bag out like an offering. Daniel shook his head violently. No, no more. His phone buzzed again. Message from Mary S. "If you won't open the door, we'll come in another way." The lobby lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. When they flickered back on, the man was gone. So was the car. And yet, Daniel wasn't alone. From the stairwell above, he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Slow, heavy, descending. The footsteps echoed through the stairwell, each one deliberate, heavy, and far too slow to belong to a neighbor in a hurry. Thud, thud, thud. Daniel pressed himself against the lobby wall, his knife gripped so tight his knuckles turned white. His breath rasped in his throat, too loud in the suffocating silence. He thought about running back upstairs, but what if that's exactly where they wanted him? The steps grew closer. He could almost feel the weight of them pressing through the concrete. Finally, a shadow stretched along the wall by the stairwell entrance. Someone was there, waiting. Daniel's pulse roared. He bolted for the maintenance door at the side of the lobby. It was supposed to stay locked, but he prayed tonight it wasn't. He shoved against it. Click. It swung open. Inside was pitch black. He didn't hesitate. He slipped in and closed it behind him, muffling the sound of the approaching footsteps. The maintenance corridor smelled of mildew and rust. Pipes rattled faintly above his head. He clicked on his phone's flashlight, the weak beam cutting through the dark. For a moment, relief washed over him. He could follow this passage to the back exit. Maybe it wasn't locked. Maybe he could finally get out. But then, his phone buzzed again. New delivery notification. Driver en route. Estimated arrival. 3 minutes. No, 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 Daniel whispered. His hands trembled as he tapped frantically, trying to close the app. But no matter what he did, the map remained on screen, showing his red dot moving slowly through the maintenance tunnel. They were tracking him. And worse, another dot appeared. A delivery car icon. Not outside, not on the street, inside the tunnel with him. Daniel's blood turned to ice. The air grew colder. The pipes groaned. Somewhere deeper in the corridor, he heard the squeal of metal wheels turning against concrete like a cart being pushed. His flashlight beam wavered as he crept forward, knife raised. Every step felt like an invitation to disaster. He turned a corner and froze. A white paper bag sat neatly in the middle of the floor. Steam curled faintly from the top, carrying that same metallic, blood-like scent. Daniel's stomach lurched. He stepped around it, refusing to touch it. But as he passed, his phone buzzed again. Order received. Thank you, Daniel. He nearly dropped the light. I didn't touch it. From the shadows ahead, a voice answered. Low, male, and impossibly close. Yes, you did. Daniel spun, shining his flashlight wildly. Nothing but pipes and shadows. His chest heaved, panic clawing at his throat. He stumbled forward faster now, nearly running. His only thought, get out, get out. Finally, he saw it. The steel door at the end of the tunnel, the emergency exit. He lunged at it, shoved the bar. It didn't budge. Locked. No! His voice cracked. He slammed his shoulder into it again and again. Nothing. Then his phone lit up one more time. Delivery completed. Enjoy your meal. Behind him, the sound of the cart grew louder, closer, squealing, rattling, echoing against the concrete walls. He turned. At the far end of the corridor stood the man from outside. Hooded, tall, his face still hidden in shadow. He pushed a delivery cart slowly toward Daniel. On the cart was a silver catering tray, covered with a gleaming lid. Steam escaped from the edges. Daniel's flashlight flickered. For a split second, he swore he saw movement under the lid, something shifting, pressing against the metal like it wanted out. The man's voice carried through the tunnel, low and calm. Time to serve the main course. The cart squeaked closer, every wheel turning with a scream that echoed through the maintenance tunnel. Daniel backed against the locked exit door, knife trembling in his hand. His flashlight flickered weakly, threatening to plunge him into darkness. "Stay away!" he shouted. His voice cracked, swallowed by the concrete walls. The hooded man pushed the cart to the center of the tunnel and stopped. Slowly, with deliberate precision, he lifted the silver lid. Steam billowed out. Daniel's stomach lurched violently. Inside was not food, at least not anything human should eat. A mass of raw meat, dark and glistening, but breathing. The chunks writhed, pulsing like organs stitched together. Veins throbbed through it, pumping with a rhythm that matched his own heartbeat. And then, it whispered. Not aloud, but inside his head. 1,000 hungry voices overlapping. Eat, eat, eat. Daniel dropped his knife, clutching his temples. Get it out! Get out of my head! The hooded man tilted his head, finally speaking. His voice was disturbingly calm, like a waiter explaining the specials. You placed the order, Daniel. We just delivered it. Daniel shook violently. I never... The man cut him off. You opened the app. You accepted the terms. Every order requires payment. And then it hit Daniel like ice water. His mind reeled back to the first notification, the strange restaurant that appeared out of nowhere, Eternal Eats, open 24/7. He had accepted without reading. Hungry, stupid, careless. He had agreed to something he didn't understand. The hooded man stepped aside, and from the shadows behind him, more figures emerged, all in delivery jackets, all carrying plain white bags. Their faces blurred, features shifting, as if the very idea of who they were refused to stay still. One by one, they placed their bags on the floor. The paper crumpled and twitched, greasy spots spreading as if the contents inside were alive. Daniel's heart pounded in his skull. Please, take it back. Cancel it. Whatever this is, just cancel it. The woman's voice floated from the darkness now, the same one from his door. Sweet, mocking, There are no cancellations, only substitutions. Daniel's phone buzzed in his pocket. Against every instinct, he pulled it out. A new receipt filled the screen. Order 6 hours I 66 customer. Daniel Miller. Item Daniel Miller. Apartment 3B. Status preparing for delivery. The screen flickered, and for half a second he saw himself on it, his own terrified face staring back as if he were the meal. The hooded man reached toward him. "Time to complete your order!" Daniel screamed, shoving past the cart. The writhing meat sloshed and hissed, but he didn't look back. He bolted down the tunnel, deeper into the dark, lungs burning, the sound of dozens of footsteps chasing him. He didn't know how long he ran. Seconds, minutes, hours. The tunnel seemed endless, twisting and narrowing, until finally he burst into a larger chamber. It wasn't a basement. It wasn't even part of the building. It was a kitchen. A massive industrial kitchen lit by sickly fluorescent lights. Stainless steel counters lined the walls, but instead of pots and pans, the surfaces were piled with paper bags identical to the one left at his door. Hundreds of them. And workers, delivery drivers, moved methodically through the room. Except their faces were wrong. Some had no eyes. Others' mouths stretched too wide, teeth jagged and slick with red. Their jackets bore dozens of different logos. Restaurants long shut down, apps no one used anymore. Daniel staggered back, gagging on the stench of rot and grease. On the far wall, a giant menu screen flickered. It didn't list food. It listed names, hundreds of them, customers. Each one crossed out with a greasy red slash. At the very bottom, glowing brighter than the rest, was his own. Daniel Miller, in progress. His phone buzzed one final time. Delivery completed. Enjoy your meal. The lights went out, and the last thing Daniel heard before the dark consumed him was the sound of dozens of paper bags tearing open at once.